Hello, thank you for joining with me. We are on day 64, and I'm not even sure. I don't have the reading schedule, so I'm not sure if we are reading chapter 4, section 1, but I'm just going to read that, assuming, because we don't get our schedule until tomorrow. But if not, I'm sure we're going to read that very soon, so I'll mark it up when I know. We are in A Course in Miracles, complete and annotated edition, reading along with course companions Emily Bennington and Robert Perry, who is the editor of this version of the course. If you would like to close your eyes and join me for a prayer. Dear Father, I would like to pray that my will be united with yours, recognizing that your perfect love will correct for my imperfect love. I pray that I may accept the atonement with conviction, recognizing its inestimable worth and my own divine worth as part of this identification with you. I pray that my fear be replaced by an active sense of your love and your continual willingness to help me overcome the split or divided will which is responsible for my difficulty with this. I accept the divinity of the messages I have received and affirm my will in both accepting and acting upon the atonement principle. Lord, here I am. Thank you. We are on chapter 4, the ego's struggle to preserve itself. Section 1, the last foolish journey. And that actually starts, see Cameo 16, Helen's Extra Mile. The last foolish journey. The Bible says you should go with a brother twice as far as he asks. Footnote 2. See Matthew 5:41. And if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2 miles. It certainly does not suggest that you set him back on his journey. Devotion to a brother cannot set you back either. It can only lead to mutual progress. The result of genuine devotion is inspiration, a word which properly understood is the opposite of fatigue. To be fatigued is to be dispirited, but to be inspired is to be in the spirit. To be egocentric is to be dispirited, but to be self-centered in the right sense is to be inspired, or in the spirit. The truly inspired are enlightened and cannot abide in darkness. Do not attempt to break God's copyright because his authorship alone can copyright. And that's footnote 3. God's copyright is his exclusive right to create you. Breaking his copyright then means trying to remake his copy, trying to recreate yourself as you wish to be. Rather than this being an improvement of yourself, however, it is a distortion, for only God can copyright. I like that. Your own right authorship does not lie in remaking his copies, but in creating like him. Embarrassment is always an expression of egocentricity, an association which has been made before. 4. After Miracle Principle 3, Helen got embarrassed when Jesus mentioned to her the experiences of intense love you have felt. In response, he said, "Don't get embarrassed. Things that are true are not embarrassing." Embarrassment is only a form of fear and actually a particularly dangerous form because it reflects egocentricity. And see Cameo 2. If you complete the sentence stem, when I was called on to speak, with I became embarrassed and could not speak, this should be corrected to I recognized my authorship. 5. The originally referred to the SCT, the sentence completion test. In this psychological test, patients are asked to finish incomplete sentences. The way they do so provides insight to their preoccupations, fears, and defenses. The phrase, "I recognize my authorship," refers to recognizing God as our author. You cannot be embarrassed by your own words unless you believe that you are responsible for them. We have already corrected word to thought, and you are free to allocate the authorship of your thoughts as you elect. Footnote 6. Text, chapter 3, section 7. The word is really a thought. The original name for thought and word was the same. You can thus speak from your spirit or from your ego, precisely as you choose. If you speak from your spirit, you have chosen to be still and know that I am God. 7. Psalm 46:10. In the above context, to be still and know that I am God is to acknowledge that God is our author and we are not. These words are inspired because they come from knowledge. If you speak from your ego, you are disclaiming knowledge instead of affirming it, and are thus dispiriting yourself. The dispirited have no choice but to be narcissistic, and to be narcissistic is to place your faith in the unworthy. I just want to pause here because I see a lot of guilt come up in me. And that is not the purpose of this. So if you're experiencing the same, let's just hug each other in spirit and know that that's not the purpose of this. Our real worth is in our divine authorship, and our spirit is its acknowledgement. I cannot guide your mind except as you associate it with your spirit. Attacking misidentification errors is neither my function nor yours. Destroying the devil is a meaningless undertaking. Cervantes wrote an excellent symbolic account of this procedure, though he did not understand his own symbolism. The real point of his writing was that his hero was a man who perceived himself as unworthy because he identified with his ego and perceived its weakness. He then set about to alter this misperception, not by correcting his misidentification, but by behaving egotistically. 8. This paragraph refers to, of course, Don Quixote, 1605 and 1615, by Miguel de Cervantes. Jesus says that the book's real meaning is that Don Quixote feels unworthy because he identifies with his ego. He tries to solve this problem, however, not by disidentifying with his ego, but by trying to inflate it through heroic acts such as tilting at windmills. Don Quixote thus symbolizes the insanity of trying to overcome the ego's unworthiness by puffing it up. Chesterton wrote an excellent description of Cervantes and his perception of his unheroic hero. 9. These two occurrences of his seems to refer to Cervantes. A view of human beings which the ego tolerates all too frequently, but which the spirit never countenances. Oops. Oh, okay. And he sees across a weary land a straggling road in Spain, which a lean and foolish knight forever rides in vain. 10. From the poem Lepanto, by G.K. Chesterton. This 1911 poem is about the 1571 naval battle of Lepanto. Miguel de Cervantes fought in this battle and was very proud of doing so, even though a gunshot wound rendered his left hand permanently useless. The poem ends on the implication that in the aftermath of the battle, Cervantes conceived the character of Don Quixote. Cervantes, on his gallery, sets the sword back in the sheath, and he sees across a weary land a straggling road in Spain, up which a lean and foolish knight forever rides in vain. And he smiles, but not as sultans smile, and settles back the blade. Do not embark on foolish journeys because they are indeed in vain. The ego may will them because the ego is both lean and foolish, but the spirit cannot embark on them because it is forever unwilling to depart from its foundation. The journey to the cross should be the last foolish journey for every mind. 11. The term last foolish journey suggests that the crucifixion on the outside was yet another repetition of the ego's natural cycle, which ends in death. See next paragraph. Yet on the inside, Jesus had left behind the ego the very thing that generated those repetitions. So for him, it was the last such repetition. And if we can view the crucifixion as he does, it can be the last one for us too. I'm trying to think. Do not dwell upon it, but dismiss it as accomplished. If you can accept that as your own last foolish journey, you are free also to join my resurrection. Human living has indeed been needlessly wasted in repetition compulsion. 12. Repetition compulsion is a Freudian concept in which a person is drawn to repeat traumatic events, situations, relationships, or behaviors from earlier in life, especially childhood. This compulsion is believed to come from primordial instinctual forces at the deepest levels of the self, which impel one to endlessly repeat certain damaging patterns. In the above passage, we feel the compulsion to repeat the trauma of the separation and its after effects, which culminate in death. It reenacts the separation, the loss of power, the foolish journey of the ego in its attempts at reparation, and finally the crucifixion of the body or death. Repetition compulsions can be endless unless they are given up by an active will, or more properly, an active creation. Do not make the pathetic human error of clinging to the old rugged cross. 13. The Old Rugged Cross is a beloved Christian hymn written in 1912 by George Bernard and performed by many of the biggest names in the 20th century recording industry. It begins with the words, "On a hill far away stood an old rugged cross, the emblem of suffering and shame." And its refrain ends with, "I will cling to the old rugged cross and exchange it someday for a crown." Jesus implies this as an example of repetition compulsion. The only message of the crucifixion is in respect to your ability to overcome the cross. Unless you do so, you are free to crucify yourself as often as you choose. But this was not the gospel I intended to offer you. We have another journey to undertake, and I hope that if you will read these teachings carefully, they will help you to prepare. They will help to prepare you to undertake it. See Cameo 17, Bill's class. Thank you for joining with me. We are on Chapter 1, The Ego's Struggle to Preserve Itself, the Last Foolish Journey. I love you. Thank you.